Thank you, everybody, joining us, and appreciate you taking your time midday and joining us for great speaking event by Ron. Gosh, Ron has so much of experience. I don't know where to start. As a teacher, he teaches consulting. Quite frankly, has grown very much. After 7 years that he spent at the Air Force as a pilot, and then 8 years, guess what? Trapped like you and I, most of us, in corporate circle and cubicles. He started his own consulting right at the middle of a recession. It took about 4 painful years for Ron to discover different tactics and strategies and move things around, like most of our us consultants. As a solo consultant, we're dealing with so many different dilemmas, marketing, sales, and of course, attending to our dear clients. If we get the first and second one, you all know what it means. Ron's clients are mostly from mid-sized to corporate Fortune 1000, globally very well known, anywhere from Microsoft, small clients, Microsoft and Arthur Andersen, AT&T, gosh, International Harvesters, PG&E, nobody knows PG&E, Brookings. What we're looking for today, and I can't wait to hear, is a couple of things, especially a couple of things. And that is, what is the biggest consulting opportunities we're facing in 2023? I die to hear about that. And how about calculating this consulting fee? We at PATCA, we used to have, and hopefully we'll have one more, had this survey of consulting rates. So welcome to PATCA, Professional and Technical Consultants Association, the longest living consulting association in Silicon Valley, trying to serve our community. Ron, you want to take it from here? Please.
Thank you, David.
Let's welcome Ron.
Thank you. So I seriously, thank you for the introduction, David. I seriously believe, I've been studying this for a couple of years, what's going to happen here. And I think we are at an epic change in society. And this is not unlike the Industrial Revolution. It's not unlike the rise of computers from 50 years ago. So this is going to be a massive change. First off, you may want to turn off any distractions. If you've got a pacemaker or something, go ahead and turn that off. That was a joke. We do have a few things that are scheduled that we'll try to get to. Little short exercises here. I hope everybody had a chance to download the workbook. So, and you can do the workbook afterwards because the data's in there. So David is going to be fielding questions, and we'll try to get to those questions at the end. I have a ton of stuff in here. I have the habit of trying to do everything into one course. And this is a small sliver of about 3 weeks of a long 8-week course that I teach. So this is a very tiny sliver of it. So this has been done many times. So here is the address for the workbook. And if I'll just pause if anybody needs to write that down and download the workbook. The workbook is a fillable PDF. You can do it online or print it and then go ahead and write it up.
It's been interesting.
Can you hear me okay, David?
In a webinar.
And somebody is,
yes.
Somebody should go to mute.
Yes, we did. We took care of that. Go ahead.
So who are you? So I think that the people that could benefit from this the most are new consultants that are just starting out, because some of this stuff, like I said, it comes from my course that I teach, and I've had my students say this saved me 5 years or more of hard learning. This also is going to seriously benefit experienced consultants who are at a sticking point, who need to get through the recession, the slow session, and get ready for what's going to be a massive boom. And as I'm going to show you, this is not just me talking about it. There's some big names out there getting ready. So, and it's also people that could benefit are any industry expert, freelancers that are thinking about moving into consulting, retired executives or managers who are also wanting to get into consulting. Because personally, I think right now is going to be a great time. So who am I? Where have I been? David, you've just went through, gave a good synopsis. I've been bald since I was about 40. It's one of those Swedish genes. I started work very early. I started work about 13 with a paper route. At 16, I was in the fields picking tomatoes. My family didn't have a lot of money. That was my allowance. My last blog, matter of fact, includes a story of one of the most important things ever said to me. It was in the tomato field. So if you go to the blog at Critical to Success, you'll see that story. My mom bet me $50 that I couldn't get accepted to the Air Force Academy, and I lost the bet. I got accepted. So 8 years later, I was, or not 8 years later, but a year later, I was in the academy, flew jets for 8 years and got a master's degree in physics. And I'm going to pause here and say something that's really deep in my heart and part of the reason for this presentation. And that is, my master's after the academy in physics was in infrared spectrometry of certain gases, methane, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. What the hell does that have to do with this presentation? What it is we discovered what we were doing is calibrating spy satellites to be able to discriminate between a forest fire, a factory fire, and a missile launch from Russia. So those same infrared analysis, what we found out was, my God, methane does not let go of heat. You shine an infrared through it, like the sun or the infrared beams we were using, and it stays there forever. It holds on to that heat. So we're in deep doo-doo. So while I was in the Air Force, it was a little boring just flying. So I also got a degree in finance, MBA in finance and marketing. Went on to write a bunch of books. And as David said, I've done consulting starting out small locally in Northern California here with regional nonprofits, and gradually moved up to Fortune 100, Fortune 1000, Global 1000 companies. Both as an I was one of Microsoft's first independent consultants, and then later doing the last 13 years doing strategy and digital marketing strategy. So David's already talked about this. I quit in the middle of a recession, and I learned how hard it is to be a consultant and how hard it is to be on your own. And it took me 4 or 5 years before I really started making money. I have figured out how to, this is no kidding, how to make money by yourself. And in multiple years, I made $1 million a year as an individual consultant. About half of that was from books. That still leaves a hell of a lot of money just from doing consulting. So there is a way to do this as an individual with just a few contractors and a part-time secretary. So he already read off that. Just for kicks, one time we went to the storage unit, got out my 7 boxes of books and loaded them all up on the bookshelves. And I've got everything from a couple on strategy to how to write games way back in the very beginning. And if you look up there at the top right corner, there's 123 Business Formula Handbook. It was a book I wrote while I was a manager of competitive analysis at Texas Instruments on how to use Lotus 123, which was the precursor of Excel. And that showed you how to get around all the flaws in Lotus 123. So you never know where things are going to go. That little book turned into an entire career, of the first 17 years of a career for me, because that's what highlighted Microsoft. That's what started my career as a consultant. That's the family. That little boy is now 6'5" at Santa Cruz University, California, Santa Cruz, and just about to graduate from robotics and artificial intelligence. And that little girl, I'm going to tell you a little story later. That little girl is just finishing her PhD in evolutionary genetics and biology and ecology. And we love to travel, but my daughter has a story I'm going to tell you later. So what's the purpose? We have finished a decade of boom. We've got a short period of bust, and I'm going to show you why it's short. But you need to get ready for the next boom. You want to survive the slow session. And that's what economists are starting to call this in the US, not in Europe, but in the US. This is a slow session. So get ready, prepare to thrive. So we've been through the turmoil and a lot of stuff has changed, and you have to get ready to recover, because I'm going to give you an overview of where we're going. We're coming into the biggest investment wave in history, and you have to be ready for it. And I'm going to show you ways. What the hell is Mick Jagger doing here? Mick Jagger has a business model that we can duplicate as independent consultants, and it works very, very well. It was responsible for about 150 to 200,000 of my income for many years. Okay, this business model, it will get you into big companies, and then you can do your own little solo consulting on the side. That can add up to 400,000 or so. So the two of them together. So we're going to come back to Nick a little later, and we're going to take a look at, do you want to be a farmer, a harvester, or do you want to just sit at the table at a gourmet restaurant and pick the best things off a menu? I'm going to show you how to do it. It's going to be tight. We've got a lot to do. So there's a lot of downsides for consultants. And the downsides are that a lot of times people will depend on one client, and there's tax rules about that, so be careful. And independents get into a feast or famine cycle where they're working their butt off and they have no time to market. And then they have that work ends and they have no clients. So then they work their butt off marketing, and their independence and their family suffer from it. We're also being displaced by freelancers, because a lot of consultants aren't sure where the line is between a freelancer and a consultant, and you have to differentiate yourself. So solos get stuck. They get stuck in an hourly fee. They get stuck in feast or famine. They have productivity issues. That's the second biggest thing. Besides getting clients, the next biggest thing I hear from my students, I've had 27 individuals I've mentored over the last 2 years. So at the end of, in February, I'm going to open up to public classes, but these 27 people that I've mentored, the second biggest thing I hear is productivity. I can't get enough done. So what you've got to do is you've got to build systems, learn how to leverage, and then scale. And there is a way to do it. So this is a picture of what, after 30 plus years, of what I see as a way to build an independent business. You've got to pick out your niche. We're going to do that today. You've got to find your ideal client. We're not going to do that. Figure out how can you boost your professional brand. So when you walk in the door, they already trust you. They know who you are. And then get your first client. Now, most independents get stuck in this feast or famine cycle. They're in the middle. They get a client, they sell their services, they get their fees, and they're right back to getting a client again. And so there is a way to step beyond that. And it starts back there in the professional branding, because with my students, everybody gets a search engine optimization analysis. And that's going to tell you where the pains are and what is in the mind of your clients. It's going to give you the keywords, the top blogs, what the topics of the top blogs are, what the pain, purpose, profit, and pursuit are of those clients. And that's going to allow you to automate your marketing and to scale your business, okay, so that you don't get in that feast or famine cycle. Now, this is something that Elaine Pofeld wrote, she analyzed, she's got a great book. Her last name is Pofeld, and I can't remember the name of the book. I'm sorry, but it's in the workbook. This chart. I would like you to take a look at this. This is from the 2015 census, the last unbiased U.S. census of solo professionals earning. Where do you come out? The average solo professional earned $47,000, and I just saw a couple of reports that it's not much more than that now. The average solo professional, that's attorneys, tax accountants, consultants, all of those. The average earns somewhere 47 to 60,000. So where are you on this curve? And I want you to take a look, add those numbers up. There's almost 1 million solos that make over 250,000, and there's 35,000 that make over 1 million. It can be done. So what do they do that's different? It really can be done. So just think about it. And the first thing you need to think about it is, why a niche or niche? But French escapes me. For starters, there are no highly successful general consultants. I had a CEO who I started to mentor, and then we decided to part ways. He kept saying, he was a retired CEO. He'd operated 3 light manufacturing companies. He kept saying, I'm an expert at everything. I can do it all. I don't have to have a niche. And it's impossible. Maybe you are an expert, but you can't get out there. You can't get known. You can't make a business. So let me ask you, if you had a heart valve problem, would you go to your GP, your general practitioner for that surgery, or would you go to a heart surgeon? It's pretty obvious what you do. So the same thing with companies. There are no broad, successful consultants. And you think about, well, what about Tony Robbins? He's in motivational and neurolinguistics. What about Patrick Lencioni? He's in teamwork. What about Tom Peters? It's corporate performance. What about Marshall Goldsmith? It's executive performance coaching. All of these people, although they look general, they do have a specific niche. So when we talk about niche in just a second, I want you to think about not just an industry, but think about your niche, like accounting or finance, strategy, operations, marketing, manufacturing. Think about that. And then think about below that. What's the specialty that you can do better than anybody else? For example, mine was one of my niches. I always think of things as in threes. I can't keep more than 3 balls in the air at a time. So think of them as threes. So mine was, for example, medical technology and strategic performance. And then within that was dashboards and metrics. So you can get down to a very fine niche. And what that also allows you to do is spread out once you get in within a company. So we have gone through these times of turmoil, and we really have probably more turmoil now than except for the dark ages in Europe. We've got a pandemic, supply chain disruptions. We've got nationalism and autocrats rising all over the world. There's a war in Ukraine that's causing starvation in Africa. I mean, we've got it. And then global climate change, okay? And that's just starting to hit. But you don't have to hold your breath forever. This is from the National Bureau of Economic Research. In the US, since World War II, the average recession has only lasted 10 months. These things don't last forever. And matter of fact, although the IMF is talking about a global recession, it's not going to be global for the US. In the US, it's going to be a slow recession. So this is from just last week from the New York Times. A soft landing for the economy may be uneven. And by the way, if you would like, anybody that's on, if you would like this, I can't give you the slides, but I will give you all these links. So I will compile them. Send me an email at ron@criticaltosuccess.com, and I will send you links to all these so that you can create your own stuff. So this is what most economists now think is going to start happening in the US, a K-shaped slow session. It's going to be a quick recovery for large businesses that have the capital, white-collar workers, technical employees, and as we've already seen here in the Bay Area, they're calling it not job loss, it's job switching. And David, we were just talking about that, about people getting out, getting fired, and within 2 weeks, they're in another job, often better, at a better pay. The recession is really going to hit those people that got hit by the pandemic and don't have a good economic or a good business background. And that's the retailers. Macy's, I just read Macy's and Bed Bath & Beyond are going out of business, declaring bankruptcy. And it's small businesses that have already blown all their resources and their capital during the pandemic, blue collar workers, and service employees. So there's really, don't look at an average. The San Francisco Bay has an average depth of about 3 feet. It also has the deepest end, which is about 250 feet. So don't look at averages. Now, this is the first exercise, and I'm going to kind of go through these exercises a little bit quickly. But I went out, this data comes from McKinsey and the World Economic Forum and somebody else that's slipping my mind right now. So I've broken types of industries. Remember, for a niche, an industry is at the very top. For types of industries, there's, I've broken it into 3 chunks. There's those industries in a recession that decline, like retail. They really get hit the worst. Then there's those that are inelastic. And the inelastic ones are things like baby diapers. You are not going to do without the baby diapers. So it's always going to be the same. And then the thriving in a recession are those like accounting. So I would like you to go through, and if you've downloaded your workbook, go through and just circle the ones that you think you are in if it's in specific industries. Is it thriving or is it declining, what you're in? And then I've got to ask you, if it's thriving, there are some rules that you could probably make a really good business, because Harvard and Stanford have both done research. I've got somewhere in my back pocket, I've got a presentation on what's the difference between those companies that really boom after a recession. And a lot of them were just doing average during this recession, but they knew how to take advantage of the boom that followed. So those are we've got down there: accountants, healthcare, financial advisors. If you're in that kind of an area, or even one of the inelastic, you're doing great. The declining ones have gone down, and you may lose a business. Okay, so you may have an increase initially if you're handling things like bankruptcies and audits, but then later your client base is going to go away. So what I'd like you to do with the workbook is, there's a way to analyze this just at a top level, and that is figure out what's the industry you're in and what type of specialty do you do, and what is the value that you add, that pain, profit, purpose, or pursuit. The pursuit is like a vision. And then, do you have a skill gap? And we're going to talk about skill gap in a little bit. And figure out, do I want to be there? And where do I want to go in the future? Is this going to go up or down? Okay. We're going to do this with a little more effort when we get to boom. So here again is the link to the workbook. If you are consulting during a recession, how do you hang on? This again, this is, if you go to criticaltosuccess.com, go to the blog menu and just type in recession. There's about a 6-page blog. Okay, I reviewed a bunch of articles about how to cope during a recession. It also has keys to marketing during a recession, and what are the differentiators between people that succeed and those that don't succeed following a recession. So I've tried to put together a couple of days of research into that one article. I hope it will help you. So there are boom times ahead for consultants, and I'm sure that's what captured everybody's attention. And the boom time is because we have a massive problem. We have problems. And that is, there's global climate change that's hitting and a failing infrastructure. This is the 2 degrees Celsius average that has changed since the turn of the last century. That's just an average. That's an average over 100 years. This is the last 8 years were the hottest years on record. This is global. Okay, this is really, I don't know about you, it's scary. Okay, it is not fake, and we're already seeing the impact. Hurricane Ian was from last year. This is just a couple of weeks ago, the hottest winter on record in Europe. They have the ski resorts are closed in Europe. And we've all seen this. My backyard is the fourth fairway of the golf course, and there's ducks out there on it right now. It's a lake. And it's not just the global climate change. We have infrastructure problems in the United States, serious infrastructure problems. There's 3 bridges that I know of here in my town, Santa Rosa, that are older than I am. The concrete's crumbling on the bridges. You can see it as you drive over. It's pretty scary. The good thing is, where there's change, there's opportunity. And there's opportunity especially for consultants. So this is a lead page off of McKinsey from about 3 months ago. Excuse me. Over the next couple of years, they're estimating $130 trillion just for the US. In March, excuse me, it's much more now. This was $130 trillion over the next couple of years into decarbonizing, that's net zero projects, and renewing the infrastructure. And David and any project managers that are in here right now, you are going to have a boom time, because the biggest problem that everybody foresees is, how do we manage all this? How we're going to have organizational change and incredible project management, because there's going to be so many projects going on. So this isn't just wishing and nobody's betting on it. A lot of the large consulting companies are betting their business on it. McKinsey last year launched April of 2021, McKinsey launched a new division called McKinsey Sustainability. Sustainability, their vision is sustainability support from boardroom to engine room. It's an entirely new division. Our aim is to be the largest private sector catalyst for decarbonization. Accenture just bought a sustainability consultancy. And if you're doing research, don't research ecology as much as I'd like you to. The keywords are sustainability and net zero in the US. Okay, those are the 2 keywords. And this just came in yesterday's or day before yesterday's newspaper. This is New York Times. I didn't put it up there, but you can research it. As infrastructure money lands, job dividends begin. And it cascades everywhere. For example, as new roads are being built, one of their articles, you can see the lead article right there, is archaeologists are on the leading edge of a wave of jobs. It goes all the way down because archaeologists have to be used before they can put in bridges and new infrastructure and buildings and roads to check to make sure there's nothing historical there. So this cascades everywhere through our businesses. If we go into net zero, so the big goal is to have a net zero by 2050, and this is the largest capital investment in world history. Achieving a net zero world by 2050 may well prove to be the largest reallocation of capital in history, leading to an increase in spending in the range of $1 trillion to $3.5 trillion per year, more than today. That's a lot of money. Where's it all going to go? So there's a couple of places you can go to learn more. One of them is this net zero transition at McKinsey. And they have a library, a hub where you can track what's going on in different industries. So this is just the beginning. So these are their sector reports for different industries that they dive into about what is happening and where the changes are. This is, I also have the link here for this. This is drills down, you can see by smaller sector here, like the hydrogen economy. I remember when I was a teenager, I was really excited. That was a million years ago. I was still excited about hydrogen fuel cells. And then it turned out that it wasn't really feasible. Well, guess what? It is way back. So hydrogen now, between hydrogen and solar and water, the hydrogen has exploded in private investment. So there's a huge amount of that's in the news just in the last 2 days about hydrogen. So this breaks it down. And if you want to go here in McKinsey year in review for last year, this will break it down into individual sectors. This is if you are in, if you're work in things like construction or clean energy or infrastructure or public transit, this is the breakout here. It's going across the board, and it's also in Europe. So 46 out of 54 countries, their budgets, they have allocated, well, they've got 3.2 trillion already. They've got 800 billion allocated just in the EU for net zero. It's the largest stimulus package ever financed in Europe. So remember that architect I was talking about? It's like, so how does net zero affect me as a consultant? It cascades all the way down, everything you can think of, finance, new technology. One of my students is a copywriter. She said there is a huge amount of copywriting right now that is doing greenwashing, where companies are trying to look like they're green, but they're not really. So they're hiring copywriters to write fake copy, greenwashing. The whole, and when that hits, then they're going to have a branding problem. So it goes throughout all economies. The other thing to research in McKinsey is the titanium economy. This is the industrials, technology, manufacturing. So all of those also are going to be impacted by this $460 billion being added. And these are in things we're more used to working in. This chart right here, and again, I will send you these links. This chart right here is breaks it down into things, industries we're more used to, like computers and pharmaceuticals and semiconductors. So this is where the boom is going to happen. The impact on consulting, massive investments, the variables are infrastructure and net zero, and it all adds up to opportunities for independent consulting. Because we've got to have new mindsets. Here's a quote from 2 McKinsey partners. We've got to change 50 and 60-year-old habits. It's got to have new leadership. Okay, so there's your executive teams. We've got to have new mindset, new organizations, new cultures. That's consulting. They can't do it inside by themselves. We've got to have performance management across the board. Performance management was the thing I kept reading over and over and over again through all of this, is how are we going to manage all of this besides the new technology? So these are the industries. Like I said, I've gone through 3 or 4 different consulting firms, World Economic Forum, and a couple of others. These are the ones that keep popping up for either they're going to decline, or they're going to be inelastic, they won't change, or they're going to thrive. So we can take those in the workbook and we can go out and do the same kind of work that you could do in the recession, for the recession. And so what you're going to find probably is there's going to be a skills gap, okay? That maybe you aren't up to speed on new technology. Maybe you aren't up to speed on something on the language. I embarrassed myself terribly one time in a healthcare organization by not knowing what they were talking about and misusing a word. So you've got to know the language. So the way to get up to speed, we're going to talk about in just a second. So again, to find the pain, look for the change. This is how I found pain most often. I use a simple phrase: issues and problems in semiconductor industry, 2023. Issues and problems in light manufacturing. Issues and problems in retail. That's going to bring you up a list, just like here. You can see I've been teaching this since 2019, but that's going to bring up a list. you need to know those things before you go into a new niche. So one is, those are going to be the topics that you want for webinars, for blogs, for case studies. Those are the topics for any industry you choose out of that previous list we saw. These are going to be your pain, purpose, profit pursuit. We're going to come back to business journals in just a second. Business journals are a gold mine. They are the map to gold for a consultant. There are, I can't remember if it's 22 or 47. Weird that I can't remember, but business journals are in every, and it's like a consortium of independents. Business journals are in every major city in the United States. I get it. Once you sign up, it's free. And, oh, it doesn't show here. It's invisible. But anyway, business journals are free. And you can sign up and you get a paper one once a week. And what I want you to do is look in that business journal, and you can select up there where the red shows, you can select which city you want to get your business journal from. You can select the pain, or not select, but go out and watch for the pain. Is it growth? Is it cutbacks? Is it new products? Is it a new branding strategy? Is there compliance problems? Watch for that pain. I'm going to tell you a story in just a little bit about how that works. The other thing is, you can go into Google News. So it's not Google, it's Google News. If you look for Google, and in Google News, you can create your own custom search profiles that will come up for you with just things that have changed recently. For example, here I used North Bay Business Journal in quotes, plus sign hotel. And so what that allowed me to do is, now I could, no, I'm not in the hotel, you know, I'm not in the that industry, but I could, if I wanted to keep track of what's happening in the hotel industry in Sonoma County, I could use North Bay Business Journal plus hotel. And every week I could go up and see every new article that's out there and quickly scan them. And you can create multiple searches like this to keep track of stuff. Now, how are you going to get your trust and authority? David and I were just talking about that. This is kind of a list. I think I put it in the workbook. Best trust and authority you can get is a referral. The next best is a book, a personal referral. The third best is webinars and speaking, where people are getting to see you and how you act and whether you know what you're talking about. Fourth is testimonials. And somewhere down there around 3 and 4, I forgot to put in, David has, if you had a wall behind you, I'm sure it would be filled with shingles of all your certificates and degrees and stuff. So that's somewhere around 3rd or 4th. And testimonials. Case studies are really easy to do. You don't have to have a case study on that exact industry, but if you have something similar to the problem, you can even go out after you find the pain, write up a case study of something you've done in the past. And you don't have to name the company, because a lot of companies don't want to have be named. The best way to go do a case study quickly, do not write 10 pages of finely small 9-point font. Go to Canva, C-A-N-V-A, canva.com, and they have these graphic templates. And I think they might be free. If not, Canva is only $12 a month. And for us that aren't artistic, it's great. And so you can, the best case study is only about 2 pages. This makes it really easy to create a case study. And now you've got an asset. You create 2 of these, you've got an asset you can approach your target with. So the other thing is that I want, before we leave all those numbers and niches, is most of us as consultants are well over the age of 40. And we are looking at not just paying the rent and putting food on the table, we're also looking at a legacy. And again, this is an epic time. There is no doubt in my mind that this is an epic time for the earth, not just for humanity. About 50% of some species have disappeared already. So I'm not going to get on this thing too long, but monarchs are almost gone. So And it all ties to us if we want to just think about humans. So think about, you want a purpose and a driver, this is it. Besides the fact it's a great economic opportunity. So how do you, I'm going to change segue here. How do you, as an independent solo consultant, get into a big company? I found three ways that really work. One is to dominate the niche. And the way you can dominate the niche is by writing a book, being a speaker so that you're out there, you're everywhere, everybody knows you, you are the name, having case studies and white papers. Another way is to complement. And this is one I wrote books specifically to get in, for example, on, one day I walked into Pacific, we were talking about Pacific Gas and Electric earlier. I walked into Pacific Gas and Electric. I had a book called Using Excel. And as I walked into the manager of training, as I walked into her office, she said, I already know who you are, and sit down, let's talk. And I got a contract for 2 years with retainers, whether I showed up or not, to train their finance people and to help them with just a retainer for on-call answers for finance people about Excel. This also worked really well for me. And that's to complement, I got the I is wrong. It should be an E on complement. To complement the missing pieces. Okay. So you figure out, use LinkedIn Navigator, which is the $89 a month version. Use LinkedIn Navigator, go out and find, and I'm going to show you another way to do it too. Go out and find who are firms that are going into industries I'd like to go in, like maybe small consulting agencies, but maybe they're missing somebody on their team. I can complement their team. So maybe they're going in and they need somebody that does this other consulting firm needs somebody that does HR compliance, or they need somebody that does power control consultant, or they need somebody that knows how to build dashboards and manage metrics. So you can go in, start schmoozing in the industry, find out who you can complement. I used to go do free lunch and learns, okay, to go talk to the people, get my name known. Then they'd say, who was that bald guy with Excel and strategic management and stuff? Now, this is a really cool one. Like I said, sorry, Nick, I'm sure he doesn't like the word cool, but they make about $1 billion a year. I think it was the last year they went on tour. They've got somewhere 5 to 8 people in their business. At the end of the year, the business disappears. They have an agile agency, is what I've been calling it. And their agile agency, what they do is they pull together just the people they need. They've already got their brand. They pull together just the people they need to do the job. In Mick's case with the Rolling Stones, he pulls together all the road crews, the sound crews, the marketers, the whole thing. And they've got 2 giant crews that go on the road. At the end of the year, they disappear. It gives them tax advantages, gives them management advantages, the whole thing. So you can do that also. I did a number of jobs that were well over $100,000, and just a couple of weeks of work. I would hire a programmer to program in the background. I taught programming too, but I didn't have the time for it. So, and they knew better. So I'd hire a programmer. He and I would sit down and figure out what needed to be done. He'd go code it. Hire a instructional designer to write the copy and write instructions, hire a trainer to train the end users, and off we'd go, okay? 4 or 5 people would be $100,000, $150,000 in a matter of weeks. So it is a great model to build an agile agency, but you have to know the people you're working with. You've got to really know who's right. I got burned once by a copywriter. I ended up staying up, I think, for about 48 hours straight. Here's one way you can find out. Use the keyword near me in Google. So if you're looking for people that you might complement, go into Google and use search near me. And this is going to bring up a map and everybody that's near you geographically. And you could also say risk management consultants near Omaha, Nebraska, or wherever you're looking for. And find, and maybe you want to go into, maybe you think you might have a niche in freight management. So search for freight management, not consultants, but freight management near me. And now you're going to find everybody that's located near you. And if you're missing the skills, if there's things that you're missing, remember you are a superpower. Consultants are super people with superheroes, and superheroes need a fortress of knowledge where they can build their skills. Because things are going to be changing drastically in the next couple of years. One of the good things about consultants is we love to learn. Everybody that I've met who has been a long-term consultant is somebody who loves to learn and loves to get out there and solve problems. So this is our fortress of knowledge, edX.org. edX.org puts together free courses from MIT, Stanford, Harvard, Berkeley, everywhere you can imagine. And edX.org, they are the core, there's thousands of courses. The courses are free to you on every topic you can imagine. You only pay if you want college credit for it. Otherwise, you can take the course. Another way is, like I said, people that take my class get 2 months of LinkedIn Navigator. LinkedIn Navigator is super powerful because it gives you access, besides a better, much more robust search engine, it gives you access to everybody that's on LinkedIn, not just the people you're connected to or your third levels. So, and you get access to LinkedIn Learning. These are short courses that normally you'd have to pay 25 to 30. Well, I guess some you still have to pay for, but there's tens of thousands of short courses. So you need a quick refresher before you go to see a client in something you haven't talked about before, jump in here. Matter of fact, Linda, who started LinkedIn Learning, was originally lynda.com, and Linda and I both became Microsoft partners at the same time. Anyway, who cares? Now, here's some real juice. This is how, now that you've got a niche, you found the pain, go out and find the people. How do you find a client? I'm going to show you 3 ways. And the first way is one people have used quite a bit, and it doesn't work anymore. We're going to talk about farmers, harvesters, and gourmets. So farmers are great people, but it is a lot of work. And there's the instructions. I think I put them in the, workbook. But farmers, basically, you go out and plant a seed. You say, hey, would you like some information about this? I've written white papers on it. I've got a book. I'm going to do a webinar. Are you interested? And you know what? Last year, I was getting out of 50 people that I searched and found a good ideal client profile. Out of 50 people that I contacted, 30 plus would respond to me and I'd engage with. 62%, I think, was my going rate. This year, beep, I get 1 or 2%. 1 or 2 contacts a week, 1 or 2 contacts a week with farmer method. People are inundated, overloaded, they're overwhelmed with social media and with crap in email. Buy me, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. Here's a better way. This way is called the harvester. Someone else is going to plant and nurture the crop. You own the combine or the harvester to pick it, and then you harvest the right fruit. So here's the instructions. Let me step you through kind of the way it goes. Again, you've got to know your ideal client. You've got to know the niche. You've got to know their pain. If you don't know those, forget it. You're going to be just looked at as buy my stuff, rather than a heart surgeon. You want to be the heart surgeon. So this is what we do. Knowing the niche, knowing the service that you provide, you go out to ZipRecruiter. You either use Indeed.com or ZipRecruiter, and this is in the instructions in the workbook, Indeed.com or ZipRecruiter. Enter the profile of what you're looking for. So I entered a profile for something simple, strategy consultant within 25 miles of San Francisco. Okay. Then ZipRecruiter, and I think Indeed.com does this too, ZipRecruiter will weekly send me an email. And that email has a list of all the jobs from different sources that that fit my profile, right? Sometimes it's a little off, but what the hell. So I look through this email and bingo, there's something that looks like it could work. Now, in this case, a senior director of strategic planning is probably somebody they want to have on board, but they may need an interim director of strategic planning, okay? Or you may find somebody else that's looking for something that you know is not, they don't need to have a full-time employee. So now I'm going to look, it says Senior Director Strategic Planning, Kendo. Whoa. Now I go out and search Kendo, I click on that link and I go to Upward, which is where the job was posted. So now I read through that and I see it's Kendo and they're right there in San Francisco and it's a division of LVMH. And I go to Kendo, and a matter of fact, in Kendo, I see what this is. This is not a product that I could probably help with, but some of my facilitation skills could help their executive boards, especially I've helped a couple of executive teams that were at war with each other. And lucky I had military training in battlefield wound management. And that was not a joke. And so now, after looking at Kendo and looking through their stuff, I say, yeah, I think I could help these people. And this is going to take me like 3 or more hours for each one of these clients that I pick. So it's not, you got to make sure you're looking at the right stuff. So ideal client, ideal niche, and it's in your bailiwick, your problems. So now I'm looking at Kendo on Sales Navigator, and I go in and I look at the business. I'm going to look at their business page. Now in their business page, okay, looks good. I've already read through their website, but down here it says people. And sometimes these screens are a little bit different. In LinkedIn has a habit of doing something called rolling changes. So what it looks like here may not be what it looks like on yours, and I may have a different version than you do. But all these features are pretty close to each other. So under their business, we can see all the people in their company. So before we go there, I want to give you a warning. Don't use this process to contact human resources. Don't directly contact the CEO. CEO is overwhelmed and doesn't want to hear from you unless you are Steve Jobs, and he's a ghost. Don't contact HR because they're going to just throw you out. They don't want to talk to consultants. What you want to do is find the person you think is the hiring manager. If you're at executive level for mid-sized businesses, I would go to the CXOs, the CFO, the CMO before I would go to the CEO. So you want to get their advisory team around knowing about you before you go to the target.
Ron,
So now, yeah.
Ron, we're almost at the end of the time, and gosh, I tell you, do you have a minute or so to wrap it up? If
I do, give me about 3 minutes, I can do the whole thing.
Already.
Okay. So we're going to go out. I know I said don't go to the CEO, but here I'm going to go to Kristen Wilcott. And there's a new feature in my version of Navigator, which allows you to build a map of everybody around her. So I can look at her profile. And now let's take a look at the last one. And that is the gourmet. So the gourmet is a lot like the harvester, but it's more specific. What we're going to do first is not look for the client. We're going to look for the pain. It's a true story again. So I go out, I look in through San Francisco Business Times, the Journal. I see Traditional Medicinals has just built a new warehouse. They rented a warehouse down in Marin, right next to the freeway. Traditional Medicinals, their factories up here in Sonoma. Why did they do that? I start thinking a second and third order consequence. They must be expanding. They must have a new strategy. They must have new operations. let's go to traditional medicinals, go out to the director level in Navigator, and I start looking through the people. These are different people than 10 years ago when I actually did this. I now go to the chief operating officer because I don't want to go to the executive officer. And I build a map around the COO. I build a map around the COO of people that probably influence her. And then I engage those people and I send them an email that says, hey, I have information. I don't send it to them directly. You get about 3 times better response rate if you send them and ask them, I've written a white paper on the very problem you're facing. Would you like it? If you would, just, connect or get back to me and I'll send you the white paper or send you whatever it is. The findings that I had the last time I did this kind of job. And you send it out to those people. After about a week, then you contact that person that you wanted directly. And in traditional medicinals case, it wasn't even a week, it was about 10 days, they called me. Okay. So this is a very proven, I've used this 5 times. I've got 5 within 2 weeks. Anthem Blue Cross. Another thing is to look for people that are new into their job, that are within the first 90 days of an executive or a management job, and they are looking for help. So prepare now for the boom. So
excellent.
Yeah, so this is the end. In February, I'm opening up a course to the public. It's an 8-week course, 70 videos. Everybody gets 2 hours of one-on-one, plus we have weekly group sessions every week. This is a real get it done kind of course. This isn't just learning. So it's called Flip Learning. Harvard and Stanford both use it. So it's do it, learn yourself for the week, offer these 70 videos. Then we get together, we go through it, and we work on it.
Thank you so much, Ron.
Thank you, David.
You see, don't worry about it. You see
Sorry it took so
how
long.
you see how you have mesmerized everybody in this forum right now. You talk about $130 trillion ahead of us. You're talking about $3.3 trillion budget for net zero. We're talking about $6.6 trillion. All of them are by the way, capital T, $1 trillion in project program management that was by PMI end of 2020. We're talking so much opportunities ahead of us.
It's going to be huge. Yep.
It is huge. Thank you so much. Please put your LinkedIn in the chat. I have shared mine. I have shared Ron's. Let us connect. We are all together. You, I. At some point, we will be collaborating. We will help each other. Let's make our connection. Let's make our network. Let's make our own little community. You are the expert.
Remember Mick Jagger. Get out and meet the people and know who you can team with.
You are the expert. Thank you very much, everybody, spending your time with us. If there is any question, let me know. I'll send it to you if you have to leave. Send it to me on the chat. I'm going to stay here for another 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Otherwise, if you have to leave, that's perfectly all right. Otherwise, I will, please take a look at the chat. Let's connect. Let's connect. Thank you very much on behalf of PATCA and everybody. Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Thank you. And before you leave, may I have everybody's beautiful smile, please? Thank you for joining us, everybody. Thank you. Oh, Ron, you have had so many information. Gosh, I don't know where to start and how to
kind of too digest. Yeah, it's about a 3-hour presentation crammed into an hour, I'm afraid.
It is great. It is great. This is a reference point. Thank you, PATCA. Thanks to Teresa. She's going to have the video capture of today's available for everybody on this forum. Please come back, join us. Join at PATCA is the longest living consulting association here in Silicon Valley. We have people, experts like Ron, joining us. And thank you, Charles, Chuck. Thank you, Carl, everybody here. I am as strong as my network. I am as strong as you. And you're very strong. You are very strong here at this corner of the world called Silicon Valley of California. Thank you for joining us. Let me know if there's any other question. Come on up. Speak up. Dolores, come on. Aaron, thank you for your note, by the way.
Thank you.
Question.
I mean, I do like you know, the programmatic approach, Ron, that you're taking. I do think there's a gap step that I've seen in a lot of people that I've worked with, which is their experiences are either they've been in roles or organizations where they either kind of had a feast or famine kind of farming or hunting dynamic, and the work effort that's needed to do harvesting is you know, it's substantial. I mean, it's like working out, right? I mean, you can read all the articles and YouTube video. I mean, eventually you do need to put a step in front of the other and do things, and you only acquire the gains that you apply that day, right? It's you know, you don't get gains just by thinking about it. So so I do think that's a motivational challenge for quite a few people, and I would say there's one other piece that I've experienced over the years, especially leveraging harvesting models, is that your integration into whatever the product or solutioning or service cycle that you have has to be very tight. In essence, you have to have really tight product market fit with that, right? Because if you build that relationship and do that discovery in the harvesting around, you know, problem X, you really need to be able to strike quickly with that result set or that, you know, that fit. If it goes through oh great, that's what you want, I have to go disappear to the garage for 3 weeks to figure it out, you tend to just, you know, you drop a lot of that relationship equity. And I've consistently seen that's a substantial gap. And so in some ways, profiling people or creating teaming environments where you can create the right people who can align to these different needs, I think, you know, is paramount versus trying to do it all by yourself.
I am in total agreement with you. And to add to what you said, the second biggest problem after feast or famine that I heard over and over again from the 27 folks that I've mentored, one-on-one mentoring. The biggest problem that I heard was productivity. How could they do all the marketing and client relations and the client work at the same time? And one of the things that I did was I put a week in the middle of the course where that's all we do. We just do, how do we write this case study? How do we get an email onboarding sequence written? That kind of stuff. And matter of fact, something I'll let out a secret that's not much of a secret, but everybody's heard about this ChatGPT, the artificial intelligence thing that if you write the right question, it will write for you, right, as in scripting right, from data in the database prior to 2021. The problem is sometimes it's not factual, but it really is a good writer. There is something better, and something I'm going to just jump off of what you said, Aaron, so that we can a little productivity tool. There's something called Jasper, JASPER.ai, and I have used Jasper now for 3 weeks, and I am very impressed with it. I think I can draft a book, for example, probably in 2 weeks. So you still have to go through and add your metaphors and your case studies, your personal case studies. You have to cross-check numbers and dates, but it's pretty damn amazing. So, and they have I think it's free 30-day trial. So it's very, very cool. So one is, yes, productivity is key. And I would highly recommend that a big part of that is knowing, do I focus too narrow or do I focus too wide? And if you focus too wide, then you end up doing what you were saying, and that somebody's got a specialized problem and you can't, you've got to study real hard to solve that problem. So what I'm recommending to people is that they do two things. One is something I call cornerstone to capstone. So the cornerstone is you go out and let's see, words that, so I teach it in my course, but if you look under yoast.com, yoast.com, and they are if for WordPress users, they are one of the best analytic tools out there. So if you go to yoast.com and search for pillar and post, so they write how to write your blogs. So they are pillars, and then everything is like funneling into this one main thing. So it's, for me, it's cornerstones of the bottom of a castle building up to the spire at the top. And if you can build the knowledge of, if you can use search engine optimization to build your branding and your knowledge and your content and all your tools, if you can figure out which are the key services to supply that your customers need the most, then you don't run into that problem you're talking about, where it's, you know, too specialized.
And one other thing I remember in your presentation, Ron, you were saying that as a solo consultant, we need to find that niche and be expert. We've heard not knowledgeable of everything and master of nothing, but be expert in the niche. And that is why I said what I said like a few minutes ago. Here in this forum, we have experts in many areas. So if we collaborate and we go to a very large organization, the chance that I have an expert in my network here among you guys is very high when I collaborate and when we get together and tap into a given large-scale acumen work. And then each would take a piece of it. And we can get part of that $130 trillion that is ahead of us. Make sense? That is why I'm very much into building that inclusive community, that where we can help each other and grow together.
There's something I could add, David. I think it looks like Aaron left, but something I could add is there's something called, I like to call it adjacencies. And a typical, a guy that used to be a friend of mine was an ex-McKinsey partner. He said they always would, as a way of getting into a project, they would underbid, which you don't want to do that as a solo, but they would underbid, they'd get in, and then they'd spread their tentacles out like cancer, you know? Now you can do that if you've got all these people to pull off, but I'm just real quick. You can do that if you've got all these people to pull off. But if you use adjacencies as a solo, then you can get in there and spread a little bit. Like I would go in as a strategic facilitator and planner, and then from there say, how are your division heads going to set their objectives? Oh, well, that's something I also do. And as a matter of fact, I used to be a database and spreadsheet finance expert. And so from past history, I can also build your dashboards to monitor that. So those are all adjacent things from my history. So if you can figure out what those are, it's a natural segue, and you're not screwing the customer, you're actually helping them.
Once again, thank you, everybody. We are 12 minutes past the hour. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I don't know how much I can thank you, so I can convey my appreciation and PATCA's appreciation to all of you. Come back. We have this kind of thought-provoking and collaborative actions every month. Looking forward to seeing you all. Happy 2023, and Let's go out there and conquer the world. Thank you. Thank you, Ron.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.